All right, so today I want to talk to you guys about total depravity. Before we get started with talking about total depravity, I think it's helpful that we define our terms. What do we mean when we say man is totally depraved? Many people, when they hear that term, they think what we're saying is that man is as evil as he can be. Not at all, right? There are some men that are more wicked than others and do more wicked things rather than other men. What I mean when I say total depravity is that all of man has been affected by the fall. Another term for that is the noetic effect of sin. All of man has been corrupted, his nature, his will, right? Being in Adam, we inherited guilt and we inherited a sinful nature. So our will has been totally affected due to the fall. And so our choices are in accordance with that. We make choices. Yes, we make literal choices. Some people will like to come back with arguments saying, well, total depravity or the Calvinists teach that we don't make any choices. We're just robots. No, that's absurd. We do not teach that. Rather, we teach that man chooses accordingly to his desires. That man is not totally free, but he's free to do whatever he desires. And as scripture points out, man just loves to sin, right? We come into this world rebelling against God. We're hostile to God. Scripture says we're dead in sin. And so that's what it means to be totally depraved. Now let's expound on this with some scriptures, okay? Let's first go to Jesus' words, right? Many people are willing to hear from the words of Christ, right? Let's go to John chapter 6, verse 44. Jesus says, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day." Here we see Jesus pointing out man's inability when he says no man can come. No man can come. I mean, there is man's ability. Or rather, man's inability pointed out plainly in Jesus' words. No man can come. They don't want to come. They're not able to come because they don't want to come. But Jesus must, or rather, the Father must give them the ability. And even in John 6:65, he goes out and he's repeatedly saying these things and they're getting offended. John 6:65, it says, "For this reason I have said to you, that no one can come to me unless it has been granted him from the Father." So here we're saying Jesus speaks that no one is able to come to God unless God the Father, right, grants this. This is ability that God must give. And this is why regeneration is a necessity for the person to believe. So let's go to another text. Romans 8 verse 7. It says, "Because the mind is set on the flesh, it's hostile towards God. For it does not subject itself to the law of God, for it's not even able to do so." Here is man's ability. Man is not able to subject himself to the law of God. It cannot obey the thing God commands. Why? They don't desire it. They're in the flesh. The flesh is hostile. And so this is the point many try to bring up when arguing for total depravity, is that his nature is corrupted. There's something wrong with it. It needs to be changed. Let's go to one more text just to show people that it's not just cherry picking, but there's multiple texts that demonstrate the depravity of man and him being totally corrupted. 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14. It says, "But a natural man does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolish to him, and he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually appraised." So here's man's ability. He cannot understand the things of God, right? He doesn't desire these things. And over you will see scripture pointing out that fact. You'll see in scripture not boasting about man's ability and all the great things he can do, but rather you see scripture pointing out what God has to do for man to believe. I know it's offensive, right? Because God is saying you cannot do it. You need me. You need the Spirit of God to make you alive for you to believe. And I know many find that very offensive. But this is the gospel. This is the starting point of the gospel. That man is so depraved, so wicked, unable to climb to the depths of God. Right? The Father sent his Son. And the Spirit awakens dead men to this reality. And this is why men must be made alive before they can believe. God must change this nature, change this dead, hard heart, stony heart, as Ezekiel 36 talks about, before we can believe. And this is the starting point. This is the starting point. When I preach to men, I know they're dead. And I'm saying, unless God does something, they will not believe. Who do you trust in? Your great ability? Man's great ability? Or God? So just wrapping things up, we want to conclude. Man is depraved. He will choose things according to his nature. Scripture talks about the inability of man to do things that are good or godly, or to come to God even. And so this is Scripture's starting point, and this is total depravity.